Welcome into the Cleveland Browns Report. Matthew Peterson here with so much to talk about on what most fans are going through. It's a boring July Thursday afternoon, but not Browns fans, no, because this team never quits. This team is a reality TV show nonstop, and there is always something to talk about with the Cleveland Browns. And of course, we have a lot of Perrion Winfrey things to break down, some replacement options, and then just some last thoughts I have on the entire Winfrey situation, because at its core, it's a bummer. You never like to see someone's NFL career potentially end so soon after just one season. He might get a chance somewhere else, but I wouldn't be shocked if another team calls the Browns and go, hey, we need a defensive tackle. Should we pick him up? And the Browns go, if you want a headache, by all means, go for it. But we decided it was too much to handle. So a lot to discuss on today's show. But as we let the audience build up, let me know where you are watching from today. Producer Patrick Seatman popped into the studio just a moment before we hit stream, and he saw so many familiar names and faces in the live chat. So all the OGs out there, shout out to you for tuning into another Cleveland Browns Report live show edition. And if this is your first time tuning in, let me know in the comment section right now where you are watching from today. I'm all about giving shout-outs to everyone who's active in the chat. We've got Georgia in the house from Dave Rowe. Speak of the devil, Patrick Seatman just flying on. They give a little bit of a quick hello to everyone. Levi Mayfield said, Patrick, what's up? So you got your own fan base. We got Aurora, Colorado, Dayton, Ohio, Phoenix, Arizona, Oxford, Ohio, Mac Predelis in the house, Joshua Miller, as always, in Southeast Michigan, looking for that Martin Emerson jersey. That would be an elite jersey to break out. If someone saw 23 Emerson, they'd have to assume you were the biggest Browns fan in the history of the world, because no one gets that deep cut of a jersey and then backs it up with a Cade York jersey. Salem, Ohio, we have Cleveland, Ohio, Canton, Ohio, Butler County, Akron, El Paso, Texas. I love to see it. Josh, when is your birthday? We'll be sure to give you a shout out on the show. I'm kind of like the birthday guy at the office. If I could self-anoint myself as that. Love birthdays, love remembering birthdays. Everyone loves to be told happy birthday on their birthday. Prove me wrong. So if you want to be someone's secret good friend, text them happy birthday each year. They remember that kind of shit. We have, I think, Switzerland in the house from Mr. We've got so many people from the Buckeye State. Love to see it. Whitehall. We've got Pensacola, Florida from Mac Predelis. Keep getting those cities in the chat right now. And while you're doing that, I'm going to toss another question your way. Should the Browns sign a defensive tackle? After releasing Perrion Winfrey, they have a couple different paths to go down. The first path is nothing, right? Just roll with what you have on your roster right now. Look at your own depth chart, look in your backyard, and promote from within. That's option A. Option B is free agency. See who is still unsigned, see if any of them will be a good fit for what Jim Schwartz wants to do on defense, and see if any of these vets are still in football shape and have another year of football gas left in the tank. That's option B. Option C is a bit more dire, but it's looking into the trade market, right? Is there someone out there that you think would make such a big impact, it's worth giving up some sort of asset? It might be a very low-level player like Denzel Mims we just saw got traded for virtually nothing, or it might be someone that you think, hey, we weren't going to go down this path because we wanted to see what we had in Perrion Winfrey, a former fourth-round pick, but now that we moved on from that fourth-round pick, let's invest another fourth-round pick in someone who is a bit more proven. But when it comes to signing a player, the most common way to go about replacing someone outside of in-house options, let me know, yes or no. I'm seeing a lot of yeses. The live chat backs me up on this. 91% of people voted to sign a defensive tackle. I've got a yes coming in from Brandon Fisher. I've got Ty Man the Buckeye saying yes. Zachary Goodman talking about something else. Ty Man the Buckeye, like I said, with a Y for yes. So keep getting those votes in down below. Josh and Gregory saying yes. I, too, agree that they should sign a defensive tackle, and we will go more in depth on this later on in the video. Quick super chat coming in from Joshua Miller. Birthday is this Sunday. So that makes it July 23rd, Friday, Saturday. Yeah, July 23rd. That's a good birthday. 723 plus 23, Martin Emerson's number. I have to envision that 23 is like a favorite number of yours. So, yeah, I would say Martin Emerson with that birthday, July 23rd. Pretty good birthday. All in all, July's a good month to have a birthday, I think. Like, summer birthdays are a bit of a drag when you're in school and whatnot because you don't get the attention that everyone craves on their birthday. But it's not a bad time to have a little birthday get-together in the month of July. So, Josh, happy early birthday. I'll be sure to remind myself of this on Sunday and let you know in the comment section of Sunday's video and wish you a happy birthday then. Thank you so much for always being a supporter of the show. Now, what game are you guys most excited for? The reason why I ask is we have starting to get some, not leaks really, but announcements on the alternate uniform schedule, right? The Browns announced which games they are wearing their alternate uniforms. The Colts and the Seahawks have announced that they are wearing their alternates for when the Browns come to town. So it kind of got me thinking, which game are you most excited for? Week 1, Cincinnati, I feel like is such an easy answer and a very good answer because who's not excited for Week 1? But I am excited for some of the deeper cut games later on in the schedule. I think, for example, Justin Fields coming back to the state of Ohio for the second time since leaving Columbus will, for the Bears side of things, probably be better than the first time because that was an absolute ass-kicking 2 years ago. But I'm excited for that game. I'm excited to see what the Bears and Fields can do this year. I think they're going to be a lot better than they were last year. But let me know which game you are excited for the most. We've got some Week 6s coming in. Week 6, that's the first game after the bye. Someone tell me who they're playing Week 6. I feel like I'm going to get called out or something. Is that the 49ers game? Because the Browns have their bye Week 5. So who is it Week 6? Because now I can't remember. Week 17, Jets revenge game. That's a good one. Browns 49ers. Okay. I mean, I do wish they played the 49ers a little bit earlier because San Francisco under Shanahan always gets off to a bit of a slow start. And Week 6 is probably out of that slow start range. I think weeks 1 through 4, right? A team could stumble into 1 and 2 and everyone panics. Week 6 is, you're pretty close to the midway point of the season, right? So 49ers, that's definitely going to be a very fun game. Plus Shanahan coming back to Cleveland as well. What other games are we excited for here? Let me know in the comments. I can't wait for Week 2. Browns Steelers, Monday Night Football, rocking those white helmets. I am so excited. In fact, that actually brings me to this good point. Nice little natural segue here. So, our Steelers Talk host, Jack Sperry here at Chat Sports. Good guy, good guy. Yesterday, he went on his live show. He does one every Wednesday. And for whatever reason, he thought it'd be a good idea to poke the bear. And he said, for every $50 super chat we get on Steelers Talk, we're going to slap the Browns Report host, Matthew Peterson, with like a little paper plate. I thought, okay, that's cute. I was sitting at my desk and I overheard him. And I'm like, all right, game on. They didn't get a single one. I thought that was pretty funny. He talked big game. He was ready to knock me down. And then he looked like the Italian army in World War II. Stood zero chance, non-factor. So you know what, Jack? Let's let the dog pound show up and show out. For every $50 super chat we get on today's show, I get to slap Steelers Talk host Jack Sperry with a paper plate. So if you want to see a Steelers fan get slapped, this to me seems like a pretty good investment. Peter R. is a legend of this. We're going to burn a Steelers hat right before that Week 2 game. Peter, if you're watching right now, I can't wait for that moment. But if you want to see Jack Sperry get a fistful of the dog pound, $50 super chat would go a long way and would be a very much appreciated contribution to the show. We do have a mailbag at the end. You guys know how we operate here. So get those questions in. I've already seen some of you peppering them into the chat. Hashtag Browns or Super Chat. Either way, you are guaranteed to, Super Chat gets you guaranteed on screen. Hashtag Browns, you are at the mercy of producer Matthew McCullough to pick his favorite question. So that is what we've got kind of in store for everyone today. So coming up, the latest news and rumors with our Bernie heads as always. And then we're going to look at some Perrion Winfrey replacements. We'll go through each option, in-house, free agency, and via trade. And then I want to look at training camp because that is here, believe it or not. And I want to look at which players have the most to prove at training camp and then that mailbag at the very end of the show. So, oh, Michael Warnecki! Bingo! Let's go! F Pitts in the chat. F the Steelers. We've got a slap coming up. Let me slack him right now. I'm going to slack Sperry that he's getting smacked. That's what I'm talking about. Michael Warnecki. Paper slap, Studio F. All caps. There he is, right on cue. He's good at slack. Good job. Michael Warnecki getting the show off with, now, unfortunately, we're not going to stand with this. Do you have a favorite side of the face?
This side.
Okay, we'll go with this side. I'm just kidding. Okay, this one's for Michael Warnecki. Shout out to you, F. Pitt. I didn't get the good plate, I feel like, but maybe that'll be better for you. Okay, here we go. Let's go, Brownies.
There we go, Steelers.
Oh, I just like,
You can go again.
yeah.
You can go again.
That's very nice of him. Okay.
Woo! Keep them coming.
Keep 'em coming indeed.
Let's go.
I should have got the stronger plate. Fuck. That's okay. We're just going to have to get two on him now. So, Sperry's a good sport, but let's go, Brownies. Michael Warnecki, you're the man. Let's go, Browns. Shout out to you. $50 super chat. Every single one. We're going to slap him with a plate. We might even get one of the plastic plates. That would be mean. But F. Pitt, indeed. Warnecki, you're a legend. Let's go, Browns. Fuck the Steelers. Okay. Are we ready to jump into a live Cleveland Browns report? That got my heart rate going. That's a good way to kick off a live show. Warnecki, you are the man. So, we are going to jump into a live show. We're going to talk about everything related to the Cleveland Browns in the last 24 hours, and there is a lot to talk about. So, if I've got the green light from big producer Tex, okay. Then let me look at my script here, and that's how we start things off. Okay. Are we ready, Big Tex? All right. Let's do this thing. Let's do a live Cleveland Browns report. What's going on, Browns fans? Welcome into the Cleveland Browns report. Matthew Peterson here talking all things Brownies, and we have a lot to discuss. But I kind of want to start the show off with one last, just takeaways, thoughts, all that on Perrion Winfrey and the entire situation. Because the biggest takeaway in my eyes is, what a shame. Like, I know I played the lottery the other day and I did not win, but Perrion Winfrey had won the lottery. He got to go play in the National Football League. All he had to do was just not screw it up. And it's not that difficult. You just can't go to a hotel lobby and then follow a girl outside and say, I'm going to smack the shit out of you or something like that. But he did do that after screwing up multiple times earlier. So some takeaways and thoughts I just want to share right off the bat here, and I kind of jotted some of them down. I do find it a bit interesting that Perrion Winfrey has been at the center of just Browns, message boards and talk shows like this and whatnot, despite him being a fourth-round draft pick. Like, have you ever seen or remember a fourth-round draft pick having so much pressure to play and deliver like a first-round draft pick? I don't remember Harrison Bryant, for example, having this much pressure. And I think the reason why is because going into that draft, we were all addicted to finding a defensive tackle. We all did our mock drafts, and we all unanimously picked Perrion Winfrey in the second round. So when he was there in round 4, it felt like the Browns won the lottery. We got the guy we were all looking for 2 rounds later. And so then we went into this offseason with defensive tackle being a bigger point of emphasis. We felt like we had an ace in our back pocket. Perrion Winfrey's going to get his shit together, and he's going to be an awesome defensive tackle for this team. He ended the year a lot better than he started it. This is going to be the difference maker for the Browns, and it just didn't happen. And as for the Cleveland Browns side of things here, they are starting to enter that last chance water, where it felt like players that were not catching on elsewhere were getting second or third opportunities in Cleveland. Malik McDowell, now we have Perrion Winfrey, specifically the defensive line for whatever reason, but the Perrion Winfrey saga comes to an end, and that is that. Now, some other quick news I want to touch on at the start of the show. Brad Stainbrook tweeted out earlier the Browns had wide receiver Jacour Pearson in for a workout today, which went well, but he won't be signing at this time. The Browns added a cornerback a few weeks ago, and now they're working out a wide receiver. Two positions I thought they were maybe the deepest at. So I'm not quite sure what Andrew Berry's up to, but I found that interesting and I wanted to share. And Aaron Wilson tweeted this out not long earlier or later or whatever. The Browns hosting free agent linebacker Clarence Hicks, 6'2", 230 pounds, 4.4 speed for a workout today, according to a league source, UTSA Football. So this position makes a lot more sense as a linebacker, a position of need for Cleveland. But let's get into our rumors and news today with our friend Bernie Kosar as kind of a scale of believability. So, are the Browns signing a defensive tackle? I'm going to give this one 2 Bernie heads. I'm kind of right in the middle where I think it could go either way, and I wouldn't be blown away whether they signed one or they didn't sign one. Because when we look at the Cleveland Browns depth chart, there's no more Perrion Winfrey there, but there are still some other names there, right? You have Jordan Elliott, who is going to make this roster. You drafted Siaka Ika. So you are looking for one more defensive tackle with Dalvin Tomlinson a lock as well if the Browns do take 4. And you have 3 guys competing for that 4th spot. Tommy Togiai, Tristan Hill, and Maurice Hurst. So I would not be shell-shocked if they don't go out and sign someone because they already felt like they had a pretty good and improved defensive line after signing Dalvin Tomlinson and drafting Ika, and they retained Jordan Elliott. That really only leaves one spot unless they want to roll with 5 defensive tackles. But at the same time, there are some guys out there that are better than Tommy Togiai and Tristan Hill, for example. There is a bigger point of emphasis now on Siaka Ika really delivering, right? The pressure just got added because going into it beforehand, it was a little bit more of, hey, we've got Perrion Winfrey. He's entering his 2nd season. We're not going to have such a big need for Ika to be a crucial player on this defensive line. Unfortunately, with no more Perrion Winfrey, Ika does have some more pressure added to his plate. So we've got that coming up here. But we're going to look at some other stats and whatnot for the other players because Maurice Hurst and Tristan Hill, along with Tommy Togiai, they have all had checkered backgrounds, if you will, right? Different backgrounds. Tommy Togiai, Maurice Hurst, Tristan Hill, all coming from various spots, right? Tommy Togiai, a draft pick by Cleveland. Hurst has been a journeyman. Tristan Hill, a former 2nd-round pick. We are checking all of our bingo cards right now for different types of settings and backgrounds for these 3 players. The best of the bunch, in my eyes, would be Maurice Hurst. He's got the most experience. He has 8 sacks in his NFL career. He's never quite caught on, but we're not asking for him to catch on as a starting defensive tackle. We're more or less asking for him to be a valuable member in a rotation. But let me know, should the Browns sign a defensive tackle? Yes or no? I'm leaning towards yes because this is a committee's position, right? It's not just 2 starters. And we know that defensive tackles in the NFL, they need to get some rest, right? They can't play 100% of snaps. No one does. The best play maybe 70% or something like that. So if you're going to have a good rotation going, I'd like to see them add some more depth to it. The upside for the Browns is at least it happened in terms of moving on from Perrion Winfrey the year they are playing in the NFL Hall of Fame game because it gives them an extra preseason game. It gives them a longer training camp so they can have a better sense as to whether or not they need to go external or if the guys they have in-house are good options for the Browns. We're going to look at a quick list here of some free agent defensive tackles, but we'll go more in depth on these guys on our episode coming out tomorrow. But Shelby Harris, Matt Ioannidis, Chris Wormley, William Golston, and I just tossed on Ndamukong Suh for the memes. I mean, it's not going to happen, at least not in August. I think if he does sign, he might sign with a contender, which fingers crossed would be the Browns, in like October like he did with Philly this year. But the top 2 guys on the list are the 2 guys I have at the top, Shelby Harris and Matt Ioannidis. But we'll do a complete breakdown on these names later on. Now, moving on to our second story today. Is Andrew Berry, is he a bad drafter? I'm going to give it 2 Bernie heads. I also think it's kind of right down the middle because there are some good picks, there are some bad picks. So we're going to do a complete deep dive on Andrew Berry as a drafter because this was a miss, Perrion Winfrey, and they might have seen it coming. But before we get into all of that, today's Cleveland Browns report is sponsored by ZBiotics. Let's face it, after y'all hit me with a bunch of super chats, I don't bounce back well the next day, but that is until I found ZBiotics. ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol Probiotic is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink alcohol, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. ZBiotics produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. It's designed to work like your liver, but in your gut where you need it most. Drink ZBiotics before drinking alcohol, drink responsibly, and get a good night's sleep to feel your best tomorrow. Now, you guys can see here that it comes in these little bottles that make it really lightweight and really easy to travel with. So if you're going on a bachelor party, for example, it's super easy to stick in your bag. So go to zbiotics.com/chatsports or scan the QR code on the screen right now to get 15% off your first order when you use code ChatSports at checkout. You can also sign up for a subscription as well, so you can stay prepared no matter the time or occasion. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you are ever unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. That's zbiotics.com/chatsports and use the code ChatSports at checkout for 15% off. Thank you, ZBiotics, for sponsoring today's video. Before we really get into the weeds on Andrew Berry as a GM when it comes to drafting, I do want to say drafting is very hard. There is no GM who has an A-plus draft grade in their history. They all have misses. They all have hits. It's a crapshoot. Even the best GMs, like Bill Belichick, he's not the best at drafting. Go talk to N'Keal Harry about that, or Patriots fans, right? They all have their fair share of misses. So this is not something that is unique to Berry. But unfortunately, Winfrey was a miss. So let's run through his draft so far, excluding this past year. Way too early to even grade that. But I gave letter grades out to all the picks, and you can argue, with them. But I gave, for example, Jedrick Wills a B-. Is he a starting tackle in the NFL? Yes, and he will be for a good portion of his career. Like, he is going to be a starting left tackle for some team for, I think, 8 to 10 years. Was he worthy of a 10th overall selection? No. Were there better players behind him? Yes. So to me, it's a B-. Grant Delpit, it's a bummer what happened in his rookie season, but I think for a second-round pick, and you have to weigh in where they were selected, he's been pretty good. B+. I think that's a fair grade for him. Jordan Elliott, C-. It's the third round, so you're not going to find day one starting talent, but he has not developed into a rotating piece on this defensive line that's worth anything. Jacob Phillips, I gave a C to. It's hard to grade him due to all the injuries. Harrison Bryant, for being a fourth-round pick, I think he's done pretty well, so he got a B in my eyes. Plus, I'm just one of the biggest Harrison Bryant fans out there. Nick Harris, B. It's also tough to grade. We just haven't seen a lot of him, but I felt pretty confident about him over, going into this past season, or 2 years ago, whatever now. DPJ as a sixth-rounder, this is an A grade for me. 2021, Newsome gets a B. I look back at that draft. I don't think there's anyone directly behind Newsome that's been better, but are there better picks that could have been made? Yes, but Greg Newsome is still a starting corner, and for that being the selection at pick, 26, 24? Pretty solid in my eyes. JOK, B. Schwartz for a third-rounder has to be better. That's an F. Hudson's kind of middle of the road. Tommy Togiai has not been very good, but it's also the fourth round. You know what you're getting. Tony Fields, I think, has been great on special teams. Give him a B+ for a fifth-round pick. Richard LeCount was one of 3 picks to be cut by Andrew Berry, so D. And Demetric Felton, he scored some touchdowns. For a sixth-rounder, you can't ask for a whole lot more. He gets a C in my eyes. Now, it's pretty early to grade the 2022 NFL Draft. I kind of hate myself for even putting grades out there, but I gave Martin Emerson an A. Again, a third-rounder for having that special of a rookie season. I'll give that an A. Alex Wright, C-, but again, it's only been one season. Don't take these too seriously. David Bell, C, kind of average, right? Winfrey's an F. There's no other way around it. It was objectively a failure. Cade York, C, and I just can't grade anyone else because I just haven't seen enough of Jerome Ford to give an actual grade. Under Andrew Berry, the Cleveland Browns have had 3 picks in the top 50 of the 20 of all the drafts he's drafted in, 12 selections in the top 100, and he has not drafted a single Pro Bowler. So he hasn't had a ton of ammunition, right? Just 3 picks in the top 50. Jed Wills, Greg Newsome, J.O.K., I believe those are the 3, yeah. Or Grant Delpit, but he's been okay, but he hasn't had a ton of picks to work with, which is somewhat of his own doing. He wanted to get Deshaun Watson, and I support that move. Deshaun Watson's better than whoever you were getting in those rounds anyway, in my eyes. But if you had to grade Andrew Berry as a drafter alone, what letter grade would you give it? A, B, C, D, or F? Let me know in the comment section below if you had to give it a grade, what grade it would be. For me, I'm going to give it a B-. I mean, we can't factor in this past draft, even though I think he really killed this past year's draft, looking back at it. But he's got some good hits. Martin Emerson, Donovan Peoples-Jones. But Jed Wills at 10 is probably one he'd like to go back and redo. Greg Newsome, I don't think he would redo it, but Asante Samuel Jr. went not long after. So maybe that's one you'd like to flip-flop right there. But all in all, I think he's been a B- drafter, which isn't bad. B- isn't bad. I can't really argue he's had an A, job at drafting guys so far because he does have his fair share of misses in day 2 of the draft. Anthony Schwartz, and then early on day 3 with Perrion Winfrey. There's some other examples like that. My final subject on today's episode: are the Browns 3-2 before the season already starts? Yeah, 4 birdie heads, baby. You can believe it. Now, you might not like being 3-2, or you might love being 3-2, depending on what your expectations are. But I am here to tell you, the Cleveland Browns, as I stand here on July 20th, when we filmed this during our live show, are 3-2. How do I know that? Uniforms. The Whiteout Series schedule was announced, and I have already dubbed all 3 games as wins. You're not losing with these incredible whiteouts. I mean, Steelers, 49ers, Jets, pack it up. Keep the bus running because the Browns have already won before kickoff. So where are the 2 losses coming? I literally, audibly out loud said, fuck, the moment I saw the Browns were playing the Colts in Week 7, and these were the Colts' alternate uniforms. I know some people aren't a big fan of them. I'm a big fan of them. I think they're pretty fresh. I think the jerseys have a cool, texture going on to it. The black helmets, yeah. I don't think the Browns can go in there and beat them with their wearing these uniforms. I know it sounds crazy, but you look good, you feel good, you play good. And the other loss is unfortunately the very next week. How the hell are the Browns supposed to go to Seattle and beat Seattle when they're wearing these throwback unis from the 80s and 90s? There is no way. It is impossible. So, congratulations. I think if I told you the Browns would go 3-2 in those 5 games, I think you'd take it. I think I would take it too. The Colts, I think they could have beat, but the Colts might be the Falcons game this year, where they have no business losing, and it happens to every team, at some point in the season. Even the Chiefs lost to the Colts last year. Now, there are some numbers that disagree with my train of thinking or train of thought, which is if you wear sick alternate throwback uniforms, you are destined to win. I actually spent the man hours this morning, went through all 2022 alternate and throwback uniforms and calculated the records. They went 12, 13, and 1. So we had 25 games last year where a team was wearing an alternate or throwback uniform, and they went almost 500 to the T. So it's kind of a coin toss, which is pretty fitting because even though I like to think that alternate uniforms have a major impact on the game, evidently not. You are still exactly 500. So is what it is. So that's going to do it for us on today's show. But I do want to ask really quickly, which game are you most excited for in the comment section? I think after going through the schedule a little bit right there, that 49ers game is going to be a lot of fun. Coming after the bye, they have to deliver. They have to take down Mr. Shanahan. But how could I be so forgetful? we have pick a card time now. We didn't do it on our Perrion Winfrey released episode because I came into the office so heated, I didn't even think to grab my cards. So, Big Tex behind the mic today or behind the camera. Which card do you want to go with?
Let's go with the 7 of diamonds.
7 of diamonds? Okay, I like that selection. I'm going to go with the 9 of spades. One last cut. 10 of hearts. 10 of hearts. Okay, that is it for today's show. A bit of a longer episode. My apologies. We'll get you guys on out of here. Enjoy the rest of your day. Which game are you guys most excited for? Let me know in the comment section below. Just the second and third one. Yeah. Okay. We had Matthew Hyam put in 9 of hearts. That is brutal. Oh, you hate to see it. By the way, we have nearly 100 people watching, but just 26 likes. Do you hate me? What did I do? How did I offend you? If you have not liked the video, come on. Like today's video. It boosts our signal to more Browns fans on YouTube, and then that gets me more views, and I get more studio time, and it's a win-win for everyone. You guys get more content, so make sure you like the video if you have not already. Levi Mayfield has dubbed football is back. I've gone on this soapbox before, and I will say it again. Football is not back until Lions at Chiefs week 1. Everything else before that is one very... You know what it's like? It's like going to a movie set, and there's an awesome spread, and it's all plastic food. And you're like, oh, this looks so good, but it's not actually real. That's preseason football. It's not even just like a bad meal. It's not a meal. Because you think you're watching the Browns, but you're not. You're watching Josh Dobbs. And no offense to Dobbs, I hope I don't see him play one snap in the regular season unless it's a kneel down at the end of the game because the Browns are up by 90. Right? No one wants to see the backups. Let's just call it what it is. Okay, so we do have a super chat flying in from, is this Soul Train? What's up, Soul Train? Soul Train, has anyone ever told you kind of look like Keanu Reeves? I'm kind of seeing that right now in the profile picture. Do you think the NFL will eventually get rid of divisions similar to the NBA and NHL? Go Browns. Well, the NBA still has divisions, and so does the NHL. They don't really matter much. The NHL does when it comes to playoffs because it's like super regionals in high school sports. You play within your division to move out of it for the most part. But NBA, yeah, it is very bizarre because they do have divisions. And the only thing that it impacts is the schedule. You play teams in your division more often. No, I don't think they'll ever go away from that, though. I think there's a huge moneymaker to the rivalries that have been built into the division games. And if the Browns play the Steelers twice a year, those tickets are going to sell for more money than if they were to not play the Steelers twice a year and one of those games then got changed to like the Cardinals or the Texans, right? The owners are going to lose money by having other games come in and water down what games the public loves the most, which is divisional games. So, Soul Train, I appreciate the super chat. I don't think it's going to happen, though. Levi Mayfield, what's going on? Week 1, because football is back, is what I mean. Okay, what game you're looking forward to the most? Cleveland, Cincinnati, a battle for Ohio. I love it. Week 1, I can't wait. Joe Burrow is 1-5, 1-4 against Cleveland all time. We're going to add another loss to that mark right there. So, yeah, I cannot wait as well. Levi, you're the man. Thank you so much for the super chat and always tuning in to our content here. Now, we have a second segment to get to on today's episode. Once I get the thumbs up, we got the thumbs up. We're going to go through all of my Perrion Winfrey replacement options for this team. So let's get into it. Coming up on today's show, we're going to run through some Perrion Winfrey replacement options. So we're going to go through all 3 avenues the Browns can go down, which is internal free agency and, of course, the more obscure one, but still possible via trade. Now, today's show is filmed during our live show, which airs every Thursday. So quick self-plug, tune into next Thursday's live show, 5 o'clock Eastern here at the channel. Now, our first option for replacing Perrion Winfrey is, before you go spend money elsewhere, how about you go look what you already have in your cabinet, right? Before we all start dining out, how about we see what we have in our fridge and the pantry, which is inevitably the most boring option. There's a reason why everyone likes to go out to eat when they're hungry instead of looking in their own fridge, because it's more tempting to see what else is out there compared to what you've already spent your money on. But the Browns' defensive line depth chart, it's actually already somewhat full, even without Perrion Winfrey. Let's say Cleveland takes 4 DTs. Dalvin Tomlinson, Ika, and I think Jordan Elliott, they're all locks to make this roster. Tomlinson, Ika more than Elliott, but I still think Elliott's going to make it. So then that leaves one last spot, and these are the 3 guys battling for it. Tommy Togiai, Maurice Hurst, and Tristan Hill. 2 players they already signed in free agency. So we're going to look at other free agent options, but I think Andrew Berry is thinking, I've already signed a lot of defensive tackles. I've signed 3 defensive tackles. Do I have to go sign another one? Maybe. If I had to pick one of these 3 guys to get that last spot on the 53-man roster, I like Maurice Hurst the most. Now, unfortunately, we did not see him play last season due to injury, and that has been a reoccurring theme for him in his NFL career. But I think Maurice Hurst comes in with the most experience, and when he's at his best, he is better than the other guys. Tristan Hill is a sneaky one, similar to Malik McDowell, a former second-round pick that just never really got a footing with his original team. But Andrew Berry has been known to give out second and third chances, so maybe Hill somehow sneaks onto the roster because Andrew Berry falls in love with that original talent that the Cowboys did when they took him in the second round. Now, when it comes to Perrion Winfrey, I think a lot of us can admit we were wrong, right? I remember being ecstatic when the Browns drafted him, thinking, holy smokes, that's a guy I thought they would get in the second round, but they found him in the 4th round. Andrew Berry, you're a king. Didn't work out. And there's probably a reason now why we know so many teams passed on him and he slipped into day 3 of the draft. So who is someone, just be honest, you got it wrong. I thought Corey Coleman was going to be awesome. Got it wrong. So let me know in the comment section below. Okay, our second option and the much more fun and appetizing one is going out. Let's go see what's on the street and who are some free agents the Browns could pick up. Here's my list of 5 free agent defensive tackles that if I had to put together the top 5 guys, I'd go with these guys. Shelby Harris, Matthew Ioannidis, Chris Wormley, William Golston, and I told a fib. Ndamukong Suh is not one of my top 5 guys, but he's kind of fun, just big time name. But when it comes to the first 4 names here, if you look at their stats from last season, some pretty solid play altogether. There's a reason why a lot of these guys are free agents in August. They either aren't coming off spectacular seasons or they're kind of approaching towards the end of their career, and teams like to see what they have going within their own farm system before going out and shopping for a, veteran minimum defensive tackle. If I had to pick one of those players, though, Matthew Ioannidis has been a very popular man on the Browns Twitter streets, but give me Shelby Harris. Give me someone last year at 44 tackles, 2 sacks. He went from Denver to Seattle in the Russell Wilson trade. He led the Broncos in sacks 2-3 seasons ago when Bradley Chubb and Von Miller were hurt. Shelby Harris brings a lot of pass rush upside. And PFF, they had a hard-on for him last year. Here are his grades, 73.2. He ranked 17th. I mean, I know Pro Football Focus is not perfect, but even if they're just a little bit off, if he's a 17th best player in their eyes and they missed the mark by a couple spots, still looked like a top 30 defensive tackle last year. For him to be on the market in August or in July almost, surprised the hell out of me. So I think Shelby Harris would be a really fun pickup. He's not the best run stopper. Well, I say that. He had a 76.9 grade, but in his career, he's been a better pass rusher. But last year, it was somewhat, inverted. So maybe he can continue that trend in Cleveland. But Shelby Harris, he's my top guy. He's at the top of my wish list for the Browns. But let me know who you think the Browns should sign, whether it's Shelby Harris, whether it's Ioannidis, someone else, Ndamukong Suh. I'll say this on Suh. I just don't think he's going to sign anywhere in training camp. He doesn't want to go through training camp. He is an older veteran in his career. He's not interested in going down the Remember the Titans path of, hey, let's get some team bonding in West Virginia. Hell no. He likes his big, comfy mansion in Tampa Bay. He's probably content staying there. And if a team needs help in October, he'll come play for 8-9 games. So for now, I don't think that's going to happen. The third option to replace Perrion Winfrey via trade. And this one is the least likely of the three. I think that's something we can all agree on. They're somewhat in order of how likely they are to go about replacing Winfrey from internal to free agency to trade. But like I said, this option, it just feels the least likely of the bunch because they aren't looking to trade for a starting defensive tackle. Perrion Winfrey was not going to start week 1 in my eyes. So if you aren't looking for a starting defensive tackle, you're probably not looking to give up a lot of assets, or at least some assets, for a DT3 or 4. Maybe you are, and it's just not going to cost you that much. Kind of like Denzel Mims going from the Jets to the Lions. That was virtually for nothing. But I think the Browns are likely going to want to hold on to some picks and not give up more, despite, being a little bit shorthanded next year following the Deshaun Watson deal. So for that reason, I think trade is towards the bottom of the priority list. We're going to look at some trade targets, though, in just a second. But make sure you get your very own Cleveland Browns Dog Pound t-shirt. I ordered mine. Has not come in the mail yet, so I'm still rocking my Browns polo. But you can get yours by going to chatsports.com/CLEdog. That link is in the comments and the description of today's video. So I polled some of the hosts here and insiders at Chat Sports regarding some defensive tackles that could be made available for trade. And I want to run through some of these. Neville Gallimore, Matthew Butler, Eddie Goldman, and Javon Kinlaw, all coming from different walks of life in terms of their path to where they are in the NFL. The most notable name, Javon Kinlaw, former top 15 pick in 2020 coming out of South Carolina. He has only played 24 games through 3 seasons. The 49ers look to be trying to move on as soon as they really financially can without just outright cutting him. They did not pick up his 5th-year option. San Francisco has a really good defensive line. If the Browns think that they can recapture that 14th overall potential for a bag of peanuts, because you're not going to get a whole lot from if you're San Francisco, maybe this is a move where Andrew Berry goes, all right, let's strike because I think we can get away with highway robbery here. Now, Kinlaw has not been very productive in his NFL career. The stats speak for themselves, and this is why the 49ers are kind of itching to move on from him. 1.5 sacks through 3 seasons, 5 QB hits, and the last 2 years he has played a combined 10 games. In his career, 45 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks, and 5 QB hits, like we said. But if Andrew Berry, who has done this before with Tristan Hill and Malik McDowell, looks at one man's trash and thinks it's my treasure and I can resurrect him and get him back to that high draft status and that potential, wouldn't be shocked if he calls San Francisco and the 49ers go, you know what, we're kind of ready just to move on altogether. You could have him for a 6th-round pick. And Andrew Berry swoops in and goes, great, I'll take him. Now, we're going to talk about some other trade candidates in just a second, but we have a Bengals channel here at Chat Sports, and the month of July can be a bit slow in the NFL world, but the Bengals channel, surprisingly, has been picking up some subs, and our boss called us out for it here at the Browns Report. So let's take down the Bengals breakdown in subscribers for the rest of this month, and let's get 25 new subs, and let's remind Cincinnati who wore white uniforms first in the NFL and who's going to win Week 1 in Cleveland. The next player we're looking at here is Neville Gallimore, another earlier draft pick for the Dallas Cowboys this time. Gallimore and Tristan Hill just revamping their career in Cleveland potentially. But Gallimore has been better than Tristan Hill. Than Javon Kinlaw. I mean, there's really no other way around it, right? He's put up much better numbers. He's been much more consistent. He just has not emerged in Dallas as someone who could be a player you give a second contract to. So maybe Dallas goes, you know what? Last year of his contract, we know we're not going to re-sign him. We might as well get something for him before he walks in free agency. So that is a name to keep an eye on. Matthew Butler is an interesting choice here. 5th-round pick by the Raiders just a season ago. He only played in 6 games as a rookie. He was a healthy scratch. He never really found a spot in that Raiders locker room. So maybe Andrew Berry looks at this and goes, you know what? 5th-round pick a year ago, I could get him for a 7th, and I'm going to chalk it up to the Raiders just being an all-time dysfunctional organization. And I'm going to put all the blame on Josh McDaniels for him not getting off to a good start. And like, say, Elijah Moore, I believe with a change of scenery and a new coaching staff, we can get more out of Butler. So this would be a very low-level trade. The final guy we're looking at here is Eddie Goldman, a second-round pick by the Chicago Bears back in 2015 out of Florida State. Now, Goldman has not played a lot of football lately. In fact, he has not played a snap since the final game of the Week 18, 2021. Now, he retired in 2022, just a year ago, 13 days after signing with the Atlanta Falcons. He took 2020 off. He opted out due to COVID, and then he did not play last year. So in the last 3 years, he's only played one season, that 2021 season, and he has somewhat regressed since some of his peak days with the Bears back in like 2017, 2018, 2019. But if he really wants to get back into the swing of things in football, and Atlanta has added some more players to the defensive line like David Onyemata, maybe they decide we don't have a spot for Goldman here, so let's just flip him for a pick and he can restart his career in Cleveland. I think if the Browns do a trade, it'll be low level. I know someone's commented Aaron Donald. It ain't happening, and it's not going to be anyone close to Aaron Donald. If it is, I'll be shell-shocked. But we are talking about Blockbuster Barry, and the man is addicted to trades. So you can't quite rule him out. Let's wrap up the show with our Pick a Card segment. Pick a card. Pick a card. Tex, what card are you going with?
Let me go with the Jack of Hearts.
Jack of Hearts. I like it. Way to go for the face card, dude. Okay, I'm going to go with the 5 of Diamonds. 5 of Clubs. 5 of Clubs. That would have been incredible to give myself the lead over the producers again. Off the back iron. All right, that is it for today's show. We'll see you guys later. 8 of Spades, Jack of Clubs, 10 of Clubs, Ace of... Oh, Elaine said 5 of Hearts. Elaine and I were both just off. Okay. 5 of Clubs. Oh, the AFX Apocalypse. I don't know if AFX Apocalypse got it in time. That one seems eerily close to when I drew the card. So that might be a bit of an asterisk for AFX Apocalypse. All right, who do you guys think the Browns should sign? We have 2 more segments to get to on today's video, but I want to hear from everyone watching right now. Over 100 people tuned in. Still only 46 likes. 4 likes away from getting to 50 likes. Can we get there before this next segment? But let me know who you think the Browns should sign. I also want to remind all of our new viewers, Tex, if we could, about the $50 Super Chat deal we're doing here. So if you missed the start of the show, let me recap you, and then we'll throw Michael Warnecki's $50 Super Chat on. But every $50 Super Chat we get, we're doing a paper slap to our Steelers Talk host, Jack Sperry, because he went on his live show yesterday and said he's going to slap me during his show for every $50 Super Chat. And they got 0 Super Chats. So if you are looking for more ways to get wins over the Pittsburgh Steelers, because that is a franchise that still thinks Ben Roethlisberger is their quarterback, Santonio Holmes and Hines Ward at wideout, and Troy Polamalu's on defense. They are stuck in the Stone Age. They still believe it is 2009. They refuse to accept that Mike Tomlin has not won a playoff game since when? Wow, like 2016 probably? 2017? It's been a long time. They are creeping up on a decade without winning a playoff game. And so they can make all the jokes and all the jabs they want at the Browns, and it's hard to argue their record against Cleveland the last 20 or so years. But you know what, Pittsburgh? The last 5+ years, you're one of us, buddy. Sorry, you're not the Super Bowl winning Pittsburgh Steelers you think you are. That time is done. It's over. All right. So with that being said, $50 Super Chats, and we will slap Jack Sperry with this paper plate. Michael Warnecki will throw his on screen here. Not different one. That's okay. And there's the F-Pit for $50 from Michael Warnecki. We will slap Jack Sperry for a $50 Super Chat. Okay. We do have one more segment to get to before our mailbag, which is a little bit of a training camp teaser, if you will, since that is, here at this point. So a lot to discuss. Is there the left version of this? But, yeah, there it is. Okay, so we've got that on tap. We ready to rock and roll? Okay. Let me give some shout-outs here. We've got cool guy called Zone rebranding himself. I actually like this a lot more. A lot easier to digest. F. Pitts coming in from Gregory, from Tyman. Kid Wilson, what's going on? Good to see you down here. Tim Green, Browns should not sign anyone just yet. Injuries are going to happen. Yeah, this is inevitable. Tim Green is saying the quiet part out loud. We've got a question coming in from Levi Mayfield with the hashtag Browns. So, Harrison Bryant for Kinlaw. I don't think the 49ers would do that deal. I think they'd probably want maybe a little bit more than a tight end 3. And also, I don't know what their tight end situation is behind Kittle. But if they are thin, and Kittle has missed some time, maybe Harrison Bryant and a pick for Kinlaw. That could make some sense. Okay. We ready? All right, here we go. Let's jump into our third segment on today's live show. We're going to talk all about training camp on today's episode. But before we do, the NFL Hall of Fame game is just around the corner. And if we pick up 300 likes on today's show, I've got the green light from the bosses here at Chat Sports to do a live watch party for this game on Thursday, August 3rd. So make sure to like the video. If you have never liked a video before, this would be a good time to break the seal and hit that thumbs up button. Welcome into the Cleveland Browns Report. Matthew Peterson here, talking about players with the most to prove at training camp. There are a lot of these articles out there, and they are more or less saying the same thing, right? Players with the most on the line, players with the most to prove, and there's just different angles of looking at it. But at the end of the day, we're all just starving for football. And so we're going to look at 3 players that might not be household names, might not be on tickets, but they are players that have a lot to prove at training camp for either their roster spot or where they stand on the depth chart. So the first player I think that has the most to prove is running back Jerome Ford. Now, Jerome Ford is pretty well cemented on this 53-man roster, so that's not why we're talking about the former 5th-round pick out of Cincinnati, but we are talking about Jerome Ford because of the big elephant in the room, and that is the departure of Kareem Hunt and whether or not Jerome Ford is ready to take on that RB2 role, right? Can he prove to the coaching staff, I can be trusted as a backup to Nick Chubb? And more importantly, I can be trusted to fill in for Nick Chubb if that time comes. And hopefully it doesn't, but 2 years ago, that time did come, and Kareem Hunt did do a good job, and then Dearness Johnson did a great job of filling in for the both of them, right? Ford, during training camp, he needs to kill any idea, any talk, any chatter of the Browns looking external and signing a running back. Because as I film this right now on Thursday afternoon during our live show, 5 o'clock Eastern, there are still some pretty notable names on the market, right? Zeke, Kareem Hunt, Leonard Fournette, Dalvin Cook. So Jerome Ford needs to go out there over 4 preseason games and show Andrew Berry and this coaching staff, don't go to those veterans. Have faith in me. Trust yourselves. You picked me in the 5th round of last year's draft. Now I've got the opportunity. Let me show you what I can do. Stump Mitchell, the Browns running back coach, recently talked about Jerome Ford, and he said this: Jerome's got a skill set that allows him to do anything and everything. Pass protection, we worked a lot on that this spring, so that was really the only thing we didn't have a good handle on because he didn't do it a lot in college. Jerome Ford needs to show that, hey, I can go in on 3rd down and make sure Deshaun Watson stays upright. Because that's a lot of times when Nick Chubb gets, a breather on 3rd and 11, and Jerome Ford can't go in there and be a liability in pass protection. But when it comes to the Browns' second running back, who do you think it's going to be? Jerome Ford or free agent? I think, and I kind of hope, it is Jerome Ford. At some point, you have to hit on some of your draft picks. You just can't build an entire roster through trades and free agency. Financially, it's just not feasible, right? There is a beauty to hitting on draft picks, and one of them is you get to have them on their rookie contract and have them be a contributing player. You just can't go out and over and over and over again sign guys to what looks like cheap $1 to $3 to $4 million contracts, but those stack up. You need to hit on some of your own draft picks, and I hope Ford gets that opportunity. The second player I think that has the most to prove at training camp would be wide receiver Jakeem Grant. So Jakeem Grant comes in with a different, approach than Jerome Ford on this video because he's coming off a torn Achilles, which he unfortunately suffered last August during training camp. And he turns 31 years old this season in October. And the former Pro Bowl return man for the Bears and the Dolphins in 2021. Sorry, ignore the typo. He tore his Achilles in August 2022. It's hard to believe it's already 2023. I've done that like twice now. But anyway, back on track. The Browns wide receiver room is very, very competitive, right? You look at the wide receiver depth chart right now, and the 4 faces on screen are all locks to make the roster. Cooper, DPJ, Moore, Goodwin. So if you're taking 6 wide receivers, Cedric Tillman is also a lock. That's 5. David Bell is going to make it. You just don't move on from third-round picks after one season when they weren't bad or, getting arrested. So now we're at 6 wide receivers. Maybe they take 7, and that 7th will be between Jakeem Grant, Jalen Darden, Dalen Baldwin, Anthony Schwartz, and that's where the battle really heats up here. So the training camp battle that I'm kind of excited to watch for is between Jakeem Grant and Jalen Darden as this team's return specialist. Now, the special teams value has somewhat plummeted over the last couple of years, especially going into this year with the new fair catch rule where teams can just fair catch kick returns and bring it out to the 25. And that takes a lot of what Jakeem Grant brings to the team, offers the table away. But this is going to be a training camp battle, and Jakeem Grant has to go out and show that he has recovered from that Achilles tear, and he is worthy of that final roster spot in the wide receiver room. Now, I do want to give a special shout-out to those of you in our Noti gang. Just a couple people that I frequently see in the comment section, always down there when the video goes out, commenting away. Cool guy called Zone, one of the first to come to our live shows every single week. Tim Matchkin, Anthony Mosley, Kimberly Hurst, Egu357. There are so many more names. Joshua Miller, you know who you are. Unfortunately, only have room for 5. But hey, if you want to be on screen and you want to get a shout out, turn your notifications on. That way when a video goes out, you're one of the first to click on it, one of the first to comment, and we'll get you on screen for a future Browns report. Third and final player with the most to prove between Greenbrier, West Virginia, or Greenbrier Resort, and Berea would be Jordan Elliott. Now, Jordan Elliott is here for a different reason than the other guys. Elliott is not here to prove that he is worthy of a roster spot. He is here to prove he is worthy of a starting position, right? Similar to Ford, Elliott needs to fight off any ideas of going external to replenish this defensive line after moving on from Perrion Winfrey. But he also has some added bonus and incentives. He needs to go out there and show he can start for this team a second straight season because last year was a disaster. There's just no other way around it. I'm sorry, but his Pro Football Focus grades speak for themselves. Overall grade of 40.4. Ranked 118th out of 127 qualifying players. Against the run, 33.0. Pass rush was a little bit better at 59.0. And it kind of makes me wonder. I think we can all agree Jordan Elliott can't stop the run. Just can't do it. But maybe with the acquisition of Dalvin Tomlinson coming over to Cleveland, Elliott won't be asked to stop the run now that Dalvin Tomlinson is there and that's his primary job. So maybe they save Jordan Elliott for not the early run stopping downs, but instead maybe he comes in for third downs, right? And he's an extra defensive lineman. And they decide, you know what? We tried having you be a 3-down lineman last year. You can't do it on 1st and 2nd. But maybe Maurice Hurst could be better at stopping the run on 1st and 10, and Jordan Elliott could come in on 3rd down. But nevertheless, Jordan Elliott has to prove he can still be a starting player on this team because going into training camp this year, he does not have that job as locked down as he did last year. So predictive for me, will Jordan Elliott start week 1? Yes or no? Ultimately, I think he will. I think it's a little bit early to just hand that job over to the rookie Ika unless they sign someone. Maybe by the time you're watching this, they have signed someone. But I think if they don't add anyone based on this current depth chart, Elliott will be the week 1 starter. Let's pick a card to wrap up the show. Mr. McCullough, what are you thinking? We're both 0 for 2 during this live show extravaganza this Thursday afternoon as we film this.
Yeah, let's go with the 7 of clubs.
7 of clubs. Okay. Okay. I'm going to go with the Queen of diamonds. Ace of spades. Ace of spades. Okay. Ace of spades. That will be it for today's show. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you like today's video, consider subscribing. We put out more free Browns content all year long. Will Jordan Elliott start week 1? What are we thinking? What is the group consensus here? I think he will. If they add someone, that completely changes it. But I know everyone wants Ika to start for 2 reasons. One, we just want to believe that someone else has to be better than Jordan Elliott because the bar is not that high. 2, if I go into the future and come back in time and tell you Ika starts week 1, then that probably indicates he had a very strong training camp in preseason, and that's good for business, right? Because we want the Browns to hit on these draft picks. But I don't know if I'm quite ready to hop in bed with, yeah, that 3rd round pick, no doubt going to start week 1. Maybe he starts in week 5 or week 6, but right off the bat, there's an adjustment from college football offensive lines to NFL offensive lines, right? There's a bit of an upgrade for Ika going from pass rushing against Iowa State's offensive line and the Cincinnati Bengals and the Pittsburgh Steelers in the first 2 weeks of the season. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. I'm seeing a whole bunch of no's. I'm seeing a lot of hope nots, and I get that because last year did not offer a lot of belief that he should start again. But here we are. It's almost August, and I can't say that someone else is better. I have not seen Ika put the pads on and play the NFL level yet, right? So before we all just assume he's going to be better because the bar is not that high, I am going to be the one that's a bit of the hall monitor and says, slow down, no running in the halls, no just assuming 3rd round draft picks are going to be the best player for that job. Not quite there yet. Sue me. We have some questions we're going to fly through. Now, if you want to get on screen, you can super chat and we'll guarantee your question gets on screen. Let's start with some of the super chats, text if you don't mind. And then we'll go to the hashtag Browns in the chat right now. So if you have a question you want answered, Michael Warnecki got the show off with a bang, a $50 super chat. If we get another $50 super chat, we will slap Steelers Talk host Jack Sperry with a paper plate. So if you want to see a Steelers fan get slapped in the face, $50 super chat. I think it's a pretty good use of the U.S. dollar, in my opinion. Joshua Miller has his birthday coming up on Sunday. Everyone spam HBD in the chat for good old Josh Miller, Arcade York resident. We have Saiyan Soul, a.k.a. Soul Train, asking, do you think the NFL will eventually get rid of divisions similar to the NBA and the NHL? Go Browns. They still have divisions. They're not very important. The NHL more so than the NBA. I will kind of twist the question a little bit and say, what would the NFL do if they wanted to add a European division? Would they add just one London team and put 5 teams in the AFC or the NFC West? Or would they have to go with 4 teams in London? And if so, which conference has an extra division in it? There are some hurdles and some logistics to get through when it comes to expanding the NFL divisions or remaking them a little bit. But I don't think the NFL will ever get rid of the divisions because, like I said earlier, but I'll repeat it again for any new viewers we have, there's just so much money and ticket money to be made when the Steelers and the Ravens and the Bengals come to town. Those tickets sell more than when the Titans or the Cardinals or the Broncos or whoever comes to town. Like, whether or not the Steelers and the Ravens and the Bengals are good, you know those tickets are going to sell more. But if the Titans aren't having a good year and the Cardinals aren't and the Texans aren't, those tickets will sell for less. And the owners, they love staying rich. And this is a good way to help make more money. Levi Mayfield saying week 1 is the game he is excited for the most because that is when football is back. Cannot wait for week 1. Week 1, it's only July 20th right now, but it feels dangerously close. I'm going to put it that way. Dangerously close. We also got a question coming in from Levi Mayfield. If proven not guilty, could Perrion come back to the team if allowed? No, because I don't think this is really all about a legality matter. I think this is the Browns had a sit-down with Perrion Winfrey back in April when he was arrested. And they said, let's be honest. Year one was rocky as shit. You have to clean up your act. You have to look and act like a responsible adult. And you have to be held to a higher standard because Joe Schmo working at Sherwin-Williams does not get put in the news if he does anything illegal. But you play in the NFL, and you are put in the news. And that reflects poorly on us. And the Browns need to score some PR points because right now they don't have a great track record when it comes to players getting in incidents and involvements with women. So when Perrion Winfrey was arrested for domestic assault or something to that tune back in April, the Browns extended him one last, chance, and he screwed it up because they told him, stay out of the news. Do not get in trouble. So whether or not he gets charges dropped or anything, it's the principle of the matter of we told you to get your shit together, and you didn't. And we can't trust you, and we don't want to continue to be in the news for a bad reason because of you. Gregory H., what's going on? Who are you most excited to see transform under the defensive scheme? Good question, Gregory. Let me kind of I'll go through all three levels of the defense. I'll give you some extra answers. On the defensive line, it has to be Myles Garrett, right? He puts up 16 sacks in 2 straight seasons. Can Jim Schwartz get him to that beyond superstar level, right? I mean, just out of this world 20-plus sacks, something you don't see every single year. I think Myles Garrett would be the obvious answer on the D-line. The second level, linebackers aren't a huge feature for a Jim Schwartz defense, but I want to see if he can make JOK into a franchise linebacker, right? When was the last time the Browns drafted a linebacker and signed him to a second contract? They haven't had a consistent linebacker since DeQuell Jackson. We're approaching a decade from that. So hopefully JOK could become that type of player in the middle of the defense. Secondary, I would go with Denzel Ward, right? How does he get Denzel Ward back to looking like a top 5 paid corner in the NFL? So Denzel Ward would be my answer in the second level. Zachary Goodman, what's going on? Hassan Hall, the UDFA out of Georgia Tech, or Demetric Felton for running back 3. Hassan Hall's tape looks more explosive. I'm excited to see what Hall can bring because he was really good as a player at Georgia Tech. The issue is Georgia Tech as a team sucked, and Hassan Hall suffered as a result. I believe he transferred from Louisville. But regardless, I think Demetric Felton, because the one thing this running back room is missing is a pass catcher, and Demetric Felton at least has some more experience in that. But don't sleep on Hassan Hall, or I'll offer John Kelly. But if I had to pick one, I'll probably go with Demetric Felton, although he kind of got put in the doghouse last year in special teams. And if you can't play special teams as a running back 3, I don't know what you're offering the team. Joshua Miller, $2 super chat. Will Garrett and Zadarius Smith combine for 30 sacks? Ooh. If Myles Garrett chips in with 18, can Zadarius Smith get 12? I'm going to say no, but wow, I would not be blown away if Myles Garrett puts up 20 and Zadarius Smith puts up 10.5, and there you have it, 30.5 sacks. But for me, 30 sacks, that's a big number. That's not something you can lightly say will be accomplished. So I'm going to leave them wanting more and put me down as a hater. But I'm really just doing this to, give them some bulletin board material. So clip this next part, Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith, and put this on in the locker room. I do not believe Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith can get 30 sacks. And scene. So now they have the motivation. So I did them a favor there. You guys are welcome. Lil Bean, what's up? How much would Myles Jack cost? The veteran minimum. Yep. What does the veteran minimum cost for a guy who's been in the league for 6 seasons, 7 seasons? Myles Jack, probably like a 1-year, $4 million contract. Somewhere in that range. Maybe there are some incentives tossed on, but not a whole lot. A cool guy called Zone. Do you think we stand a chance against the Seahawks, or will we get beat down? I was already kind of shaking my boots a little bit about traveling all the way to Seattle. Now, I do think Seattle will regress. why, call me crazy, I'm not a Geno Smith believer. I know what he did last year. He had a phenomenal season last year. He really did. But I have a lot more previous seasons of evidence to believe that he might go back to being that old Geno. Now, he's got a lot of great pieces. That roster is really talented. Seattle has sucked at drafting under Russell Wilson. And then, oddly enough, their first 2 drafts without Russell, I think they somewhat nailed. But I think the Seahawks, the biggest fear is the alternate uniforms. Now, I do have one piece of good news. You would think when Seattle wears those throwback uniforms, they're destined to win. I, too, thought that when I put all of my money on Seattle last year at home against Carolina because Turf, the team dog, passed away days before the game. They were playing for a dead dog at home against an awful Carolina Panthers team, and they still lost. So maybe Seattle is just not a team of destiny. Maybe they just do not live up to the moments that are from above, and they can't come through. I don't know. Say in Seoul, will Alex Wright play more inside? Alex Wright was drafted as a genetic freak, right? That was why he went up so early. He didn't have crazy numbers coming out of UAB, if I believe. So I believe the Browns are going to look at a lot of their options. And this is a good point you raised because you are somewhat stacked at edge rusher, right? You have Myles Garrett, Darius Smith, Okoronkwo. Like, that's a good 3-man rotation. You add Isaiah McGuire, the rookie out of Mizzou. If he looks better than Alex Wright, I'm sure there'll be a conversation with Jim Schwartz, Andrew Berry, and Kevin Stefanski going, well, let's test out Alex Wright on the inside. Maybe he catches on there because he's not getting any sort of runway on the outside. It's a good idea, Soul Train. I like this idea a lot. This will be a fun one to watch in the preseason. If on third downs, they kick him inside, and they're like, all right, maybe we do this more than just third down. Mason's Mix, next one up. What do you think the Browns' chances are of winning the division? If history repeats, and I'm a big student of history, the Bengals will not win the division. No team since realignment in 2002 has won the division 3 straight times. And think about that. This is a division that had Ben Roethlisberger and the Pittsburgh Steelers going to the Super Bowl. The Ravens, with Harbaugh, one of the most consistent teams in the National Football League. But neither of those teams, or even the Andy Dalton Bengals, could pull off 3 straight division wins. So if it's not going to be the Bengals, and I'm sure as hell not believing in the Pittsburgh Steelers, then what are the chances? 50%. It's between the Browns and the Ravens. And I don't mind 50% chance to win the division for the first time in AFC North history. So that's kind of a lame answer, but that's what the math tells me. And the math is mathing. Kid Wilson, what's going on, dude? Our first 5 games are pretty tough. What are the odds we go 0-5? Low. Tough to go 0-5. It's tough to be this talented and go 0-5. Their first 5 games, week 1, home against Cincinnati. Week 2, at Pittsburgh. Week 3, home against Tennessee. Week 4, home against Baltimore, I think. Yeah. And then week 5, bye. And then week 6 is 49ers. Is the Ravens game home or away week 4? Someone fact check me in the stat. I feel like it's home. That's a lot of home games. Maybe it is away. Anyway, before the bye, the Browns have to go 2-2. Right? I'm all about looking at chunks of the season and going, hey, in this 4-game stretch, you can divvy up the wins and losses however you want, but they're going to find 2 wins and 2 losses. So whether that means splitting the first 2 weeks of the season and then stealing one from the Ravens but coming up short against the Mike Vrabel-led Titans, you can chalk it up however you want. The Browns, I do have to find a way, I do believe, to go 2-2 at least. So the chances, that's 5 tough teams right there. Bengals, playoff. Steelers, the Steelers. Week 3, Titans. Might suck, but I think they're going to be better than what people are giving them credit for. Week 4, Ravens, they're going to be bad. I mean, not bad in a good, like bad in a good way. It'll be tough. And then week 6, 49ers, you have to win that one out of the bye at home. If they lose that game, Sports Talk Radio will be calling for Kevin Stefanski's head. Calling that shot right now. Joshua Miller, next one up. Will Deshaun Watson in his first full season have a better record than Baker did in his first full season, 11-5? Very good question by Josh. I will say tied. Yeah. Well, first off, Baker didn't go 11-5. No, yeah, you're right. Sorry, I was thinking that. Yeah, they had 16 games back then. I think the Browns will win 11 games this year, right between 10 and 11. So that would kind of be on par. Will they go better? 11 wins is a tough thing to beat, but Browns are going to be good. They've got a fourth place schedule. I'm excited. Ryan Chowdhury, does Sue have enough in the tank for the contract he would demand? I don't think Sue wants to sign anywhere right now. Like, unless someone threw a lot of money his way, sure, he'll get behind that. But he's not interested in going through training camp. He's not interested in working out in August under the sun. Like, he is very comfortable watching football for the month of September, and then his agent calls in October and goes, you want to come back now and pick up $2 million for 2 months of work? Yeah, I'm in. So, does Sue have enough in the tank? I think so. I think he could still play. He didn't look burnt out for the Eagles last year. He didn't look like that Super Bowl Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Ndamukong Suh. But for 6-8 weeks, reunion with Jim Schwartz, that could be fun. AFX Apocalypse. What do you think the chances are of the Browns playing Stetson Bennett as the Rams starter this year? Very low, because Stetson Bennett sucks. He sucks. He's the worst backup in NFL history. All right, this will be our last question, unless we get another super chat, and then we'll keep the show going. What are some roster holes the Browns have to fill before camp starts? None. Like, let's kind of think this through for a second. Like, an offense, running back 2 is the only spot that's kind of up for debate. On the offensive line, they have a swing tackle in DeJuan Jones. They have all 5 starters. They have a lot of good players on the interior as well. Nick Harris, Luke Whippler. So, a wide receiver, I'm set. Quarterback, I'm set. On defense, defensive tackle is one to watch before camp starts. It's a little late for that. Camp starts tomorrow. So, I don't think we're having a midnight signing. So, I think Andrew Berry has done a lot of work this offseason. And as fun as it is for us to tinker with it, he's probably content with the group of guys he put together. He's ready to hand off his homework to Kevin Stefanski and say, finish the group project. Don't just put your name on it and expect to get an A. I did a lot of work for you between January and August. Like, that is the GM season. Once the season starts, GM's not doing a whole lot of work, believe it or not. So they make a trade or two, a signing if an injury happens, but they're not doing a whole lot of roster maneuvering once that season gets underway. And I think Andrew Berry feels pretty confident about a lot of the work he has done, and now he's just entering the home stretch. We do have a super chat coming in here to keep the show rolling. If you want the show to continue to super chat, and we will keep the lights on. This next one coming in from Zachary Goodman. First time super chatter. Let's go, Zachary. Shout out to you. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Woof, woof. Let's go, Zachary. We have a question in there. DeJuan Jones expectations. Hopefully we never see him. Like, let's be honest. If I'm told Jed Wills and Jack Conklin start all 17 games, I'm going to chalk that up as a success. So maybe we see him next year. But to keep it frank with you, I don't want to see the backups this year. Maybe if he comes in and he steals the show, it's a blessing in disguise. But the last thing I want is week 6 against the 49ers, Conklin goes down, and we're like, well, let's find out what DeJuan Jones is made out of. So expectations are, hope we don't see him, but maybe we will. And if we do, I'm sure that Bill Callahan is having a lot of fun this upcoming summer or this upcoming training camp, molding the mountain of a human being that is the 6'8", 6'9", maybe even 7 feet tall on cleats, DeJuan Jones. $5 super chat from Joshua Miller. If the Browns go 11-6 in a loaded AFC, but don't make the playoffs due to some crazy tiebreaker bad luck, is the season still considered a success? I feel like I've answered this question before. Maybe I'm having some bad deja vu. I don't think it's mathematically possible to win 11 games and not make the playoffs, right? Let's say the Bengals or the Ravens win 12 games, okay? So then that puts them in the wild card. That's believable. I don't see how there can be 3 other AFC teams with 11 wins or more. Like, just the schedule doesn't work that way. Right? For every game one team wins, someone else has to lose. So, if this is the case, I guess so. But I remember the Chicago Bears fired Lovie Smith after they won 10 games, and they missed the playoffs. That was 10 games. 11 gets you in. Now, if this was 10-7, that's a different conversation. And maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe 10-7 is not good enough if it does not get you to the postseason. So, I hope that answers your question, Josh. Levi Mayfield. Shout out Mac P, my dude, getting ignored. Do we have a super chat from Mac Predalis? Did we miss one from Mac Predalis? I don't think so. But you know what? I'm always about saying shout out to Mac Predalis because Mac is the man. Mac, thank you so much for your continued support of the channel. And yeah, it's like shout out to Mac Predalis, the Eric Andre show. Let's give a quick shout out to Christina Applegate. Anyone knows what I'm talking about? Shout out to you. Yeah, it didn't show up, but I got charged. Oh, I'm missing this now. Okay, Mac, put your question. Can you, Mac, put whatever you super chatted with the hashtag Browns, and we'll throw that on screen, and that'll be the same thing, guaranteeing a spot on screen. I'm very sorry because I don't see anything on my end, so that is very bizarre. Pool King 21. Do we make the playoffs by winning the division? Come on. Yes. I don't know if I'm getting punked or something. Ray, did you get screwed over too? Okay, I gotta have a long conversation with whoever the CEO of YouTube is, because this is some bullshit if that's the case. But there's nothing on my end that shows you guys super chatted, but I don't want you guys to get screwed out of your hard-earned money. AFX Apocalypse. I do remember the Dolphins went 10-6 and they missed the playoffs, but that was 10 wins. 10 wins, you could miss the playoffs. 11, I don't think it's financially possible. All right, there's the Mac Predalis one. We'll throw that on screen right now. Mac, I'm very sorry. I'm very frustrated. I don't understand why it wouldn't come on YouTube on this side of things here. But we'll get you on screen no matter what. Do you think the Browns-Bengals game will be a shootout or under 30 total point game? I feel like the Bengals have gotten off to some slow starts. Like last year, remember they had the tie? No, they lost to the Steelers. It was almost a tie. I think the Browns are going to come out there and, pardon my French, shit down their throats. I think it's going to be 30-10. And it's going to be a wake-up call for the rest of the NFL because every single year, we can all agree, every single year, there is a game that gets played in week 1. And everyone puts all the money on one side. And then it goes the other direction. I think this year, it'll be Browns-Bengals. And it'll be a wake-up call for the rest of the league. Uh-oh. Were we sleeping on the Browns? Because that might have been a bad idea. Because they just took down the second-best team in the AFC by 3 touchdowns. Kenny Jackson, $10 super chat. First time. Going to the Bengals game opening day. I enjoy the show always. Go Browns. Can we just win one Super Bowl before my pop goes? Kenny, you charged me with a lot there. I sure as hell hope so. For you and your pop, enjoy the game. Thank you for being a first-time super chatter here at the show. You're the man. Really appreciate your support. But let's go Brownies. Let's get a week 1 win. Let's take down the Bengals. I just gave my score prediction, so I'll give another prediction here. Deshaun Watson, 4 touchdowns. 3 through the air, 1 on the ground. Number 1 quarterback in fantasy football. That's my hot take right there. 4 touchdowns. Deshaun Watson, week 1. Let's go Browns. Let's go Brownies, baby. We'll keep the show going if we continue to get super chats. Lil Beam right now with a pick a wide receiver 2. Elijah Moore or DPJ. I'm going to give 2 answers. Kind of play both sides here. Who do I think will be this wide receiver 2? Elijah Moore. I think he's going to get more opportunities. No pun intended. I think the Browns are looking at Elijah Moore as a big asset that they move for and they have under control for the next 2 years. Whereas DPJ will be a free agent after this year, And the Browns might not want to force feed a guy who's going to walk in free agency if they can't afford him. When it comes down to who's a better player, I think DPJ at this moment is a better wide receiver. Like last year, he almost put up 1,000 yards in a run-first offense that had a quarterback change midway through the year. But I think more will emerge as this team's second receiver when it's all said and done. Tim Green, what's going on? Are we live when the Hall of Fame game plays 8/3/23? I sure hope so. 300 likes was the number that my boss set for us going on a live watch party. I'm very confident, so I'll shoot my shot right now and say yes. But we are a little bit contingent on that, but I'm going to pencil us down as getting 300 likes. And yeah, I can't wait. Thursday night, August 3rd, that is 2 weeks from today. Holy smokes. We have Browns football, pads on, jerseys on. Here's the best part about the preseason, though. They put the jerseys on. Like, when you get the pictures and the highlights from training camp, it always feels a little bit Mickey Mouse-ish because they're practice unis. And you're like, yeah, like that's not the real thing. When the jerseys come on, there is something that clicks, and you're like, oh, it's go time. We're going to war right now. Let's fucking ride. I'm also super stoked for the Hall of Fame game because we're going to get good quarterback play. I want to see Zach Wilson play. The Jets better not be cowards. They better put him out there. We get Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Joshua Dobbs, and Kellen Mond, and Zach Wilson. That's a fun Hall of Fame game. Bet the over. Pool King, yeah, every team that wins the division makes the playoffs. I don't know if I'm just teaching this for the first time or if I'm trying to get trolled. I'm trying to be an asshole. But yes, if you win the division, you make the playoffs, guaranteed. Depressed Browns fan, MVP candidates. MVP award is more or less a quarterback award. Last year you had Patrick Mahomes. Tua was really high up there for a while, if you remember. Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. So maybe Deshaun Watson would emerge. Like if you're asking for the Browns, that's pretty much it. Unless Myles Garrett puts up like 24 sacks and no quarterback has a phenomenal year. That's like the only way a defensive player, or if Nick Chubb leads, if Nick Chubb puts up 2,000 yards in rushing, which his running back coach said he thinks he can do this year, then I don't see it happening for the Browns. All right, last question, unless we get a super chat from Gregory H. If we go down 5 linemen, who do you think suits the best? Who do you think suits the position best? You can have on the if you're a linebacker, if you're watching from the linebacker point of view, going from left to right, Obo Okoronkwo, Darius Smith, Dalvin Tomlinson, Jordan Elliott, Myles Garrett. Maybe switch Jordan Elliott and Dalvin Tomlinson. Kind of balance it out a little bit so there's not too top heavy on one side. But I think those would be your 5 because as much as we rag on Elliott, he was serviceable as a defensive tackle pass rusher last year. He had 2 sacks. Like, for a defensive tackle, that's not bad. And that's all I'm saying, is if you're looking for the next defensive tackle to get after the quarterback on 3rd and 14, he is probably the best man for the job. If you're looking for a guy to stop the run on 3rd and goal from the 3, he is not the man for the job. But that's going to do it for us on today's show. Thanks so much to everyone who tuned into our live show today. Really appreciate you guys taking time out of your Thursday to come hang out with producer Matthew McCullough and myself. We will sign off. We will see you guys later throughout the week. To all of our super chatters today, MVPs of the show, thank you guys so much. Michael Warnecki, love you. We'll see you guys later. Let's go Brownies.